everybody. Welcome back. Forge Your Path, episode number 3. And man, am I fired up to share this with you today. If I feel a little bit out of breath, or it looks like I'm out of breath if you're watching this on camera, it's because I am. So why is that? Well, guess what? This has been a life-changing week for the Facciani family. We adopted an 8-month-old lab golden mix puppy. So life has been absolutely a whirlwind for a week. My daughter's mission in life for the last 3 years was to get a dog. We looked into some different rescues and some different places, and all of a sudden things popped up in the last week and we made it happen. So what I wanted to share today and why I'm out of breath is, for the first time in a full week, I got a workout in just now. My wife and daughters are literally at this moment out walking Bailey, our new champion pup right now. And so this is the first hour I've pretty much had free this week, other than 15 minutes where I went out and got my flu shot. So that's what you're looking at. So I want to make this as efficient as possible. I'm maximizing this 1 hour that I have, and I want to deliver this message to you because I got to tell you, I learned so much this week in thinking about takeaways I had in the week leading up to getting the puppy and what happened this week. So let me jump right in and share 3 things that are really my learnings from what I call the Bailey Chronicles. And all of them have to do with the power of your thinking and thinking patterns. So here's number 1. For the past couple of years, we've been talking about getting a dog, and we kept concluding that it may not be the right time. What if maybe next week could be better? What if maybe next quarter? What if when the girls get to 7th grade would be a better time? Maybe 8th grade to be better. So this dialogue has been going on for as long as I can remember. And I realized, isn't that what we do when we're not sure about making a decision? Can we come up with 100 logical reasons of why we shouldn't do something and why waiting is better than action? Well, that's exactly what we did. We waited. And sure enough, this week, when the possibility came up, all those questions came. All those questions came right to the surface. Well, what if we don't have the yard in place? What if he's not going to be able to be crate trained? And then I thought about it. All those logical reasons are true. And at the same time, I thought about every major life transition I had. Getting married, right? What if we're not ready to do that? Well, in that case, I pretty much knew that I was. But sure, those doubts are, am I ready to take the plunge and start my life with somebody else? And guess what? Went forward and did it. Becoming a parent for the first time. What if we're not ready? What if the house isn't house-proofed? What if we should wait another year? We're a little more settled in our new house, which was another one. What if we're not ready to be a homeowner? At the end of the day, when you think about it, you can always find these logical reasons not to do something. Going to school for the first time. Were we ready as kindergartners, or at that transition point as 6th graders going to middle school, or going to high school, or even college? Or did we have the essentials worked out? We planned enough, and then we figured it out on our own without the manual. If I'd waited another 2 years as a homeowner, would I have been more prepared? I suppose if I talked to more people, I could have learned some things. Sure, there's always a little truth in that. But how much higher would prices have gone? Where would the rates have been at that point? Me being a parent. I was 36 years old when I had Annie and Lily as twins. My wife was 33. Sorry, babe. Don't mean to out your age here on the podcast, but that's the truth of it. If I'd waited another year or two, what would have been different? Except us being a year or two older. So my point is this. Rather than thinking about all the logical reasons and betting on those, prepare enough and then take action. And let me tell you, there are 1,000 things we were not ready for this week. but I'm so grateful that we took the plunge. Here's number two. Number two, in terms of a pattern of thinking that I think it's important to also address. I'll call it, how are we going to? How are we going to? So this week, I had 1,000 of those moments. My wife had 1,000 of those moments. The dog is a very rambunctious fella. Love him to death. He's amazing. But it has turned my routine upside down. How am I going to get my workouts in? How am I going to be able to endure a workday? Because guess what? I was told this guy was crate trained. So in my mind, what does Mark Facciani think? Cool. We'll go for walks. We'll tire him out in the morning, do a lunchtime walk, do some walks at night. But in between, crate trained in my mind means he'll go in his crate. He'll play. He'll do his thing. I'll let him out between meetings. I'll pet him. And he'll be good. Guess what? That was 0% true. Putting him in the crate, he goes bananas. So all of a sudden, he's going mental at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday. I got to let him out of the crate. And now I've got to adapt to a new environment where I'm running a workday. Oh, not only that, let me throw a couple more logs on the fire. Had a concrete contractor coming to do my garage at 7:30 a.m. Monday morning. At the exact same time, the girls are going to school and the dog needs to be fed. So while he's jumping off the walls and jumping over couches, I've got to write a check, go outside, try to get him squared away, hold the dog on a leash. But look, that was one of about 1,000 things this week that occurred. And here's what I concluded. People were starting to ask, how are we going to go to Christmas Eve? How are we going to go to my aunt's house on Christmas Day? What are we going to do in January when the parents go to Florida? What I concluded is all those are good questions, and I don't discount the value of planning. However, in a major situation like this, when you need to adapt and you have to just be in execution mode, win the day, right? Win the short term. What do I need to do right now to execute and focus in this moment? And that might be for the next hour of time. It might be for the next couple hours of time. It might be for the next 5 minutes. If you start thinking about how am I going to a day ahead, a week ahead, a month ahead, a year ahead, you're taking energy and focus away from the moment, and you cannot execute. So I found it critically important to keep observing those thoughts, but then compartmentalizing those. Hey, forget about those right now. And when other people brought them up constantly this week, from my daughters, my wife, my parents, all kinds of well-meaning people, good to listen and take it in, and then try to bring people back to, hey, what do we need to do to win today? What do we need to do right now in order to make this happen? So for me, that was incredibly powerful to remember. And I think you can apply that anywhere. It's awesome to think have a 5-year plan for your career. Of course, you should have aspirations. You should think about those big ideas, the things that light you up. And I'm a big believer in that. I'll be talking about that in future podcasts, about chasing the things that you want, being excited and lit up by those things that fulfill you. But that's fundamentally different than getting to the mechanics of how am I going to? Because that often is tied to scarcity thinking, things in thinking about things I can't do and limitations, as opposed to, hey, this week, it's about getting it done. And that is moment to moment, minute to minute. I was fundamentally able to execute a very successful work week. But yeah, I forgot one thing. In addition to everything else, I had 3 new hires I had to train on my team this week. So there was no option but to bring my best self, my best energy, my best presence to make sure their first week at my company was successful. And yeah, were there some awkward moments? Sure. Did I feel embarrassed at different moments? Absolutely. But it all was part of what needed to be done. So here's number three. Number three is this. Had to stop and get the charger plugged in. We are in DEFCON 2 mode, just making sure we're staying out of global thermonuclear war. So here's number three. Number three is staying away from never and always thinking. This came up a lot this week. So when we put the dog in the crate, when I tell you he barks, I mean he barks to wake up the neighborhood. So every night, 35, 40 minutes, barking at the top of his lungs. And talk about a great way to elevate the blood pressure and push you to your brink. It was there. So, of course, he's never going to stop barking. He's never going to stop doing this for months. What if he does this forever? We're never going to be able to go on vacation again. We're never going to be able to leave the house. I always make these decisions where we get stuck. So many of these came up this week, both in conversations with the family and even in my own mind. And I thought about it. I thought about never and always thinking. And here's what I concluded. How often is that ever true, first of all? This is a puppy. How many millions of people have raised puppies before? Are the Faccianis the first family in the world? Yeah, of course not. But the mind really wants to go there when you have that crisis moment. And if you're undisciplined in your thinking, you can let that happen over and over and over again. And all that does is what? Negative thoughts lead to negative emotions, lead to negative patterns, leads to negative lifestyle. So it was a real act of discipline to observe, and discount that never and always thinking. Because how often do we tell ourselves those stories? It's never going to happen for me at this job. I'm never going to find that person who is going to complete the other part of my life. I'm never going to be able to accumulate the kind of wealth I want for my family. I always get passed over for that promotion. I always get second shrift when it comes to the things that I want. So recognizing those limiting beliefs as exactly that, total crap that we create in our own mind, but we're so convinced of because we've been telling ourselves these terrible stories for so long. Doesn't help us at all. And in fact, it's the most detrimental thing that you can do that blocks you from the person you want to be. So here is the one piece of what I'll call always thinking that I remembered, and it was my beacon for this week. So in the midst of all these crises, in the midst of the late barking and the couple of 4:15 wake-ups this morning that happened, yeah, that was a blast. After an 18-hour effort of the day of work and management and everything else. Here's the always thinking that got me through the week. And it got me so convinced that I am fired up beyond belief because mentally I lived by this week and I know it's now true. I always figure things out. No matter what you throw at me, I always am going to rise to the occasion. That kind of always thinking is the stuff that is gold. And I don't care if that sounds cocky or arrogant or off-putting, because guess what? I can think of so many times in my life where I've been thrown into a situation. I had no idea what the hell to do. And yes, I had the what ifs. Yes, I had the how am I going to's. And yes, I had some of the negative never and always moments. But guess what? I always figure it out. I always find a way. And my wife this week had an amazing moment yesterday. We had a trainer that my buddy recommended, God bless him, that's going to come to our house and start working with him 4 days a week next week. And it's going to be a couple-month process to get him to where he needs to be. But in my mind, one of the what ifs I was going through was, in a week and change, I have the team coming to the office. Those 3 new hires, yeah, I've got to go to the office 3 days in a row for full days. How am I going to? So guess what? She asked him, hey, in addition to everything else you're talking about, do you ever do any boarding for a couple of days? And the trainer said, well, maybe we can talk about that. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If you can have the mindset that I always figure it out, you ask the questions. You spark that creativity in your mind and the curiosity to figure out the solution rather than all the reasons you can't. So that's what I'm going to leave you with today. What's the always piece of thinking that's going to empower you and be your catalyst, going to be your rock through not only times of challenge, and I got to tell you, probably been my most mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually challenging week since my infant twins came home 12 years ago. But as I sit here on this Saturday, feeling unbelievable, having got this workout in, getting an hour of free time, I come back to that place. I always figure it out. And the truth is, you can too. So thanks for listening today. Thanks for all your continued support for the Forge Your Path podcast. If you like this episode, if you like what you've been hearing, spread the word and keep liking it in all those places on social media. Really excited to keep building this community, keep getting the message out there. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please share it on social media. Also, if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs, please see the show notes for the link to my website. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.